The holding block was silent in a way that felt wrong. Not peaceful, not calm. It was the kind of silence that waited for something to break. The human stood alone at the center of the containment room. His hands were free, but only because the guards believed chains were unnecessary now. The room itself was the cage. Thick energy walls hummed around him, faint blue lines pulsing like a slow heartbeat. He did not struggle. He did not shout. That disappointed them. From the observation deck above, alien officers watched through a transparent barrier. Tall bodies, sharp eyes, cold expressions. They had expected fear by now, or anger, or begging. Instead, the human simply stood still and breathed. "He is calm," one officer said, confused. "That will not last." Another adjusted the controls. "It will, after they are released." The human had been captured during a border conflict that barely made the news across the galaxy. To most civilizations, humans were still a mystery. Weak bodies, no claws. No natural armor, soft skin, loud emotions, easy to break. The officers had tried everything already. Isolation, light deprivation, noise overload, false executions, threats of endless confinement. The human had endured all of it without screaming. He had lost weight. His eyes were tired, but his posture remained steady. That was when the council approved the final method, the feral units. Below the observation deck, heavy doors slid open on the far side of the room. The human turned his head slowly. From the darkness, they emerged. 4 figures stepped forward, low to the ground at first, moving on hands and feet like animals. Their bodies were lean and powerful. Their ears twitched. Their tails flicked sharply behind them. Yellow eyes reflected the blue light of the energy walls. The cat girls had once been people. They had been soldiers, scouts, civilians taken from shattered worlds. Something had gone wrong with their conditioning long ago. Trauma, experiments, neglect. Whatever the cause, they no longer responded to commands or language. They were labeled feral. The galaxy used them as tools when nothing else worked. Drop them into a room with a prisoner. Lock the doors. Wait. No one survived long. The officers leaned forward, watching closely. "Observe," one said. "This will end quickly." The cat girls froze when they saw the human. Their ears flattened. Their backs arched. Low growls echoed through the room, raw and threatening. The human did not raise his fists. He did not step back. He slowly lowered himself to the floor. The officers frowned. "What is he doing?" The human sat cross-legged, hands resting openly on his knees. His movements were slow, deliberate, non-threatening. The cat girls circled him. One crept closer, sniffing the air. Another hissed softly. Their claws scraped the floor, sharp and ready. Still, the human did nothing. His breathing stayed even. His eyes stayed soft. Minutes passed. The officers expected blood by now, screams, sudden motion. Instead, something strange happened. The closest cat girl paused. Her head tilted. She sniffed again, closer this time. The human smelled like sweat, metal, and something unfamiliar, something warm. He spoke, not loudly, not sharply. His voice was rough, unused after days of silence. "It's okay," he said. The translator did not activate. His words were not meant for them to understand. They were meant to be heard. The cat girl flinched, but she did not attack. Another moved closer, then another. They surrounded him fully now, bodies tense, muscles ready to spring. One raised a claw toward his chest. The human closed his eyes. The claw stopped inches away. The officers shifted uneasily. "This is delayed," one muttered. "Release the stimulants," another ordered. A faint hiss filled the room as chemical signals were released into the air. The same compounds that always triggered aggression. The cat girls reacted. Their breathing quickened. Their tails lashed violently. Low snarls grew louder. The human felt it immediately. The air burned his lungs. His heart raced. He still did not move. One of the catgirls suddenly collapsed against him. Not attacking, collapsing. Her knees gave out, and she fell forward, forehead pressing into his chest. Her claws dug lightly into his shirt, not piercing skin, but holding on. The room froze. The other catgirl stared. The human opened his eyes in surprise. Slowly, carefully, he lifted one hand and rested it on her back. His touch was hesitant, unsure. She did not resist. She shuddered. Then another catgirl stepped closer and leaned against his side. Then another, curling near his legs. Within minutes, all four were pressed against him, bodies tight and shaking, ears twitching at every sound. The human sat there, surrounded, not torn apart, not screaming. Holding them, from the observation deck, silence fell. "This is not possible," an officer whispered. The human's mind raced, but his body stayed calm. He recognized the signs: fear, overstimulation, creatures pushed past their limits for too long. He had seen it before, on battlefields, in himself. "It's okay," he murmured again, voice barely audible. "You're safe." The translator still did not activate, but the catgirls relaxed. One yawned, sharp teeth flashing briefly before she settled her head against his shoulder. Minutes turned into an hour. The stimulants wore off. The guards did not move. They simply watched as the most dangerous tools in the facility slowly fell asleep on the human's chest, sides rising and falling in uneven but peaceful rhythm. The human leaned back against the wall, exhaustion finally catching up to him. His eyes burned, his arms ached. He stayed awake anyway. He did not know why this was happening, but he knew one thing. Whatever the galaxy thought humans were, they were wrong. And whatever these catgirls had been turned into, they were still people. The lights dimmed slightly, signaling the start of the station's rest cycle. No one in the observation deck spoke. For the first time since the experiment facility was built, no alarm sounded. No cleanup teams were called. No bodies were removed. Only a human, sitting quietly, with four so-called feral beings sleeping against him alive. The alarms did not sound when the station entered its active cycle. That alone unsettled the guards. When the lights slowly brightened, the human was still sitting against the wall. His back was stiff, his legs were numb, his arms felt like stone. He had not slept. The catgirls had. All four were pressed against him in different ways. One lay across his lap, her tail wrapped loosely around his wrist. Another rested her head on his shoulder, breath warm against his neck. The other two were curled at his sides, claws relaxed, ears flicking only when a distant sound echoed through the station. The guards stared through the barrier. No blood, no torn flesh, no broken bones. One guard whispered, "They should have killed him." Another shook his head slowly. "They did not even hurt him." Inside the room, the human felt the first stir of movement. One of the catgirls shifted and opened her eyes. Yellow pupils widened when she realized where she was. Her body tensed. The human spoke softly, his voice dry. "Easy," she froze. Her ears twitched. She studied his face closely, eyes narrowing as if trying to remember something important. He did not move his arms away. He did not push her. Slowly, she relaxed again. The others woke soon after. One hissed briefly when she noticed the energy walls. Another bared her teeth toward the observation deck. The human remained still. "They are waking," an officer said. "Prepare suppression teams." "No," another officer said sharply. "Wait." Inside the room, the catgirls began to move around him. They sniffed his clothes. One tugged lightly at his sleeve with her teeth, not biting, just pulling. The human winced but did not react. "Careful," he murmured. The translator finally activated. The system detected emotional calm instead of aggression. The catgirls paused. They looked at him sharply. For the first time, they heard his words clearly. One tilted her head. "Care? Fool?" Her voice was rough, unused, like a blade scraping metal. The human swallowed. "Yes," he said gently. You're safe. Safe. The word echoed strangely in the room. The cat girls exchanged glances, their tails slowed. Their shoulders lowered slightly. No one had said that to them in a very long time. From the observation deck, panic began to spread. They are responding to him. That should not be possible. Humans are not handlers. The lead officer leaned forward. Open a communication channel. A soft tone sounded in the room. Human prisoner, the officer said. Step away from the feral units. The human looked up. The cat girls immediately reacted. One moved between him and the wall. Another crouched in front of him, claws half extended. Low growls filled the room again, not wild, but warning. The human felt it instantly. They were protecting him. He raised one hand slowly. It's okay, he said to them, then looked up again. I won't hurt them. That is not your decision, the officer replied. The human shook his head slightly. They won't hurt me. That is irrelevant, the officer signaled. The energy walls flickered. A pulse of force surged through the room, meant to disorient. The human cried out as pain shot through his muscles. The cat girls screamed, not in fear, in rage. They lunged at the barrier, slamming into the energy wall with full force. Sparks flew, warning lights flared. The officers stumbled back. This has never happened before. Inside the room, the human collapsed to one knee, gasping. The cat girls surrounded him instantly. One pressed her forehead against his chest again, claws digging into the floor. Another snarled at the wall, teeth bared. The human forced himself upright, shaking. Stop, he said hoarsely. Please. They froze. Slowly, one by one, they turned back to him. He placed a hand on the nearest one's head. His fingers trembled, but his touch was gentle. I'm okay, he said. I'm still here. The growling faded. The room went silent again. The officer stared in disbelief. He controls them. No, another whispered. They chose him. That was worse. The council was notified immediately. Within minutes, high-ranking officials crowded the observation deck. Their expressions were no longer confident. What is his designation? A captured human infantry unit. No enhancements? No. No training with these species? None. They watched as the human leaned back against the wall again, breathing hard. The cat girls stayed close, eyes tracking every movement outside the room. He should be terrified, one council member said. Why is he not afraid? The answer came quietly from a medical officer reviewing the human's file. He has already lost everything. They opened the file. Family, deceased. Unit, destroyed. Homeworld, under occupation. Psychological notes scrolled past. Endurance beyond expected limits. High empathy response under stress. Refusal to abandon wounded allies. The officer swallowed. He is not unbreakable, she said. He is already broken. He simply refuses to pass it on. Inside the room, the human rested his head back against the wall. His eyes closed briefly. One of the cat girls nudged his hand with her nose. He smiled faintly. I'm still here, he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. The council exchanged looks. This was no longer an experiment. This was a problem. If the galaxy learned that humans could do this, not with force, not with dominance, but with presence, everything would change. One council member spoke the thought aloud. We cannot let this spread, another asked quietly. Or can we afford not to? Below them, the human opened his eyes again. And for the first time since his capture, he realized something. He was not the prisoner anymore. The council did not sleep. Screens filled the chamber, replaying the same footage again and again. The human sitting calmly, the feral unit staying close, the failed suppression pulse. No one spoke for a long time. They should not behave like this, one council member finally said. They were broken beyond recovery. They were treated as weapons, another replied. Weapons break differently. The lead counselor turned to the guards. Separate them. A silence followed. Carefully, she added. and without force, if possible. Inside the containment room, the humans sensed something was wrong before the doors even opened. The air felt tense. The catgirls noticed it too. Their ears flattened. Their bodies shifted closer to him. The doors slid open with a low mechanical sound. Medical teams entered slowly, carrying restraint fields and sedative emitters. They kept their distance. The human stood up immediately. "No," he said. The translator caught the word clearly. One officer raised a hand. "You will comply." The catgirls reacted at once. They stepped in front of him, backs arched, teeth bared. Low growls filled the room again. Deeper this time. Controlled. Focused. The human lifted both hands. "Easy," he told them quietly. "No one gets hurt." One of the catgirls looked back at him, eyes wide. "They take?" she asked, struggling with the words. The human understood. "Yes," he said honestly. "They will try." Her grip tightened on his sleeve. The officers hesitated. "Sedatives," one ordered. A soft hiss filled the air. The human felt it first. His head spun. His legs weakened. He dropped to one knee. The catgirls screamed. They did not attack the officers. They turned to him. One grabbed his arm and pulled him upright. Another pressed her forehead against his chest again, desperate. A third tried to block the sedative flow with her own body. "Stop," the human gasped. "Please don't fight them." The officers stared. "He is protecting us," one whispered. The sedatives took effect quickly on the human. His body went heavy. His vision blurred. He collapsed. The catgirls howled. The sound echoed through the chamber, raw and painful. Not rage, not hunger, grief. Medical teams rushed forward, panic spreading. The catgirls circled his fallen body. Claws extended, now not attacking, but warning. "Back away," a guard shouted. The human stirred weakly. "I'm okay," he whispered, barely conscious. "I'm still here." The words calmed them more than any command ever had. The medical officer froze. "Did you hear that?" They respond to reassurance. She stepped forward slowly, hands visible. "We will not harm him," she said carefully. One catgirl glared at her. "Lie," she hissed. The word was broken, but clear. The room went silent. "They can speak," someone whispered. The medical officer swallowed. "Not lie. Help." She knelt beside the human and checked his vitals. He was weak but stable. "We need to move him," she said. "He needs treatment." The catgirls tensed again. The human forced his eyes open. "It's okay," he said faintly. "Let them help." One of the catgirls shook her head. "You go." "Gone." He managed a small smile. "I'll come back." They did not believe promises easily, but they believed him. Slowly, painfully slowly, they stepped back. Medical teams lifted the human onto a stretcher. The catgirls followed closely, refusing to let go until the very last second. When the doors finally sealed between them, the human was unconscious. The catgirls stood frozen, staring at the empty space where he had been. Then they sat down, together, and waited. Hours passed. The council chamber was filled with quiet urgency. "This changes everything," one counselor said. "They are not feral. They were traumatized," another replied. Like him, medical scans appeared on the screen. The human's body was damaged. Old fractures, scar tissue, neural stress markers far beyond safe limits. "He should not be functioning," the doctor said softly. "He is," the counselor replied. "And now he has bonded with 4 dangerous assets." "They are not assets," the doctor snapped. "They are people," the counselor did not argue. In the medical wing, the human slowly woke. White lights, clean air, silence. He tried to sit up. "Don't," a voice said gently. He looked over to see the medical officer sitting nearby. "Where are they?" he asked immediately. "She is concerned," the officer noted quietly. "Where are they?" he repeated. "They are safe," she said. "For now." He relaxed slightly. "They didn't hurt anyone, did they?" "No," she admitted. They waited. He closed his eyes. Good. The officer studied him carefully. Why did you stay calm with them? He thought for a moment. Because no one ever stayed calm with me, he said. The officer had no response. Back in the containment wing, the cat girls stirred. They felt it before the sensors did. He was awake. One stood abruptly. Live. The others rose too. Their ears turned toward the medical wing. Something had changed. The council realized it at the same time. The bond had not broken. It had deepened. And now the question was no longer whether the human could survive them. It was whether the station could survive what he was becoming to them. The council chamber filled again, but this time the mood was different. No anger, no confidence, fear. The footage from the last 20 hours played silently in the air. The cat girls sitting together without restraint. No attacks, no panic. Just waiting, watching the door. They have not moved, a council member said. Not once. They are waiting for him, another replied. The lead counselor folded her hands. And what of the human? The medical officer cleared her throat. He is stable. Weak, but stable. Can he walk? Yes. Good. The chamber lights dimmed slightly as a new screen appeared. Long-range scans, unauthorized signals, outside interest. Word is spreading, an intelligence officer said. Other factions detected the anomaly. Which factions? All of them. The room fell silent. They want the human, the officer continued. Some believe he is a control mechanism. Others believe he is a threat. And the cat girls? They want them returned to weapon status. The medical officer stood. That will not work anymore. The lead counselor met her gaze. Then we need a solution. In the medical wing, the human sat on the edge of the bed, rubbing his wrists. Fresh bandages covered old scars. He felt tired in a deep way that sleep could not fix. The door opened. 2 guards entered, weapons lowered. Behind them stood the counselor. You will come with us, she said calmly. He looked up. Where are they? They are unharmed. That's not an answer. The counselor paused. We need to talk. He followed them without resistance. When the containment room doors opened, the cat girls reacted instantly. They stood at once, ears forward, bodies tense. Then they saw him. Everything else disappeared. One crossed the room in seconds and grabbed his arm. Another pressed against his side. The others circled behind him, forming a tight barrier. The guards froze. The human placed a hand gently on the nearest one's shoulder. Easy, he said. They relaxed but did not move away. The counselor watched closely. They respond to you instinctively. They trust me, he replied. That is dangerous. He met her eyes. Only if you plan to hurt them. She did not deny it. Human, she said. You are now a point of interest across the galaxy. You can help us control this situation. His jaw tightened. You want to use me. We want to prevent chaos. By breaking them again? They are unstable. They are scared, he snapped quietly. There's a difference. One of the cat girls tugged his sleeve. Leave? She asked softly. He crouched slightly so he was at her level. No, he said. Not without you. The counselor inhaled slowly. You cannot take them with you. Why not? They are classified. They are people. A pause. If you refuse, the counselor said carefully, they will be separated permanently, sedated, reconditioned. The room went very still. The cat girls felt the tension instantly. Low growls rose again, not loud, but sharp. The human stood up straight. You try, he said, voice steady, and you'll have to kill me first. The guards shifted uneasily. The counselor studied him for a long moment. You would die for them? He looked down at the cat girls. One was shaking slightly. Another watched the counselor with open fear. I already almost did, he said. They didn't run. Silence followed. The medical officer stepped forward. Counselor, she said, if we force separation now, we risk a full containment breach. And if we don't? We risk change. The counselor closed her eyes briefly. Then she made a choice. Very well. she said. A compromise. She looked at the human. You will stay under observation, voluntarily. You will assist in their rehabilitation. They don't need fixing, he said. They need protection, she corrected. And in return? They will not be reconditioned. The cat girls looked at him, waiting. He nodded slowly. I stay, one of them frowned. Stay, cage? He smiled faintly. Different kind. The counselor gestured. Prepare adaptive living quarters. The guards stared. You're letting them out? Not out, she said. Together. As they were escorted down the corridor, other station personnel stopped and watched. Whispers spread. Fear mixed with confusion. A human walking freely. 4 former feral units walking beside him. No restraints. Inside the new quarters, the energy walls were gone. Soft lighting replaced harsh glow. No weapons, no cages. The cat girls froze at the threshold. The human stepped in first. It's okay, he said. We can leave if you want. They followed him. One tested the floor, another sniffed the air. Slowly they relaxed. That night, the humans slept for the first time in days. The cat girls stayed close, but not pressed tight anymore. Comfortable, watchful. Elsewhere on the station, encrypted messages arrived. Offers, threats, warnings. One faction demanded custody. Another demanded elimination. The council read them all. The lead counselor spoke quietly. If this spreads. The medical officer finished the thought. The galaxy will learn that humans don't dominate monsters. They sit with them. In the quarters, one cat girl watched the human sleep. His breathing was uneven, his face tired. She touched his hand gently. Stay, she whispered. He did not wake, but his fingers curled slightly around hers. And far beyond the station, ships began to change course. The warning came too late. The station's outer sensors screamed as unknown ships dropped out of warp without clearance. Not 1, not 2, 5. Their hulls carried no official markings. No flags, no negotiation signals, only power. In the council chamber, officers shouted over each other. Unauthorized vessels. They bypassed the outer grid. Energy signatures are military grade. The lead counselor stood slowly. They are here for him. In the adaptive quarters, the human felt it before the alarms reached his level. A deep vibration ran through the floor. The lights flickered. The cat girls reacted instantly. Ears flattened, bodies tense. Claws slid out. One moved in front of him. Another took position near the doorway. The other 2 watched the ceiling, eyes tracking invisible threats. The human sat up from his rest. It's okay, he said automatically, but even he did not believe it this time. A loud voice echoed through the station, broadcast on all channels. This is the Korath Syndicate. Surrender the human and the bonded units immediately. Non-compliance will result in total breach. The human closed his eyes briefly. Of course, he muttered. The cat girls did not understand the words, but they understood the tone. One grabbed his arm hard. Take you, she growled. He nodded. Yes. She shook her head violently. No. The station rocked as a section far away exploded. Emergency lights snapped on. The counselor's voice cut through the chaos on a private channel. Human, they are cutting through the lower decks. Security will not hold. What do you want me to do? He asked calmly, a pause. Then quietly, come to the command deck, alone. The cat girls snarled immediately. He looked at them. I won't leave you. Lie, one said. Fear sharp in her voice. He took her face gently in both hands. I promise. Promises mattered to them. That was the problem. They moved fast through the corridors, escorted by armed guards who looked more afraid than ready. Explosions echoed closer now. Smoke filled the air. When they reached the command deck, the counselor was waiting. They want you alive, she said. They want them broken. He stood straighter. Then we don't give them either, she studied him. If we surrender you, the station survives. And if you don't, she looked at the shaking walls. Many will die. The catgirls pressed closer to him, sensing the danger in her voice. "Human," the counselor said. "You can end this." He exhaled slowly. "I've seen this before," he said. "You give them what they want, and they come back for more." She said nothing. "Open the channel," he continued. The counselor hesitated. "Open it," he repeated. Against her better judgment, she did. The image of a tall, armored alien filled the air. Cold eyes, sharp smile. "Human," the alien said. "Walk out unarmed. Leave the creatures behind." The human stepped forward into view. "No," the alien blinked. "You misunderstand. You think they're tools," the human continued. "You think fear makes loyalty." The alien sneered. "It does." The human looked back at the catgirls. One was shaking. Another was baring her teeth. "They followed fear once," he said. "Look where it got them." The alien laughed. "And you think kindness makes soldiers?" "No," the human said. "It makes people who choose." He turned back to the counselor. "Unlock the external bay." Her eyes widened. "You'll vent the deck. I'll hold it." She stared at him. "You'll die." "Maybe," he said. "But they won't." The catgirls grabbed him. "No," one pleaded. "Die." He crouched in front of them. "Listen to me," he said softly. "Stay together. No matter what." One pressed her forehead to his. "Come," he smiled sadly. "If I can." The counselor made her decision. The external bay doors opened. A violent rush of air tore through the corridor. Alarms howled. The guards were thrown back. The human planted his feet and grabbed the emergency rail, muscles screaming as pressure tried to rip him away. The attacking ship closest to the bay was caught in the sudden force imbalance. Its shields flared. Inside the quarters, the catgirls screamed. They felt him weaken. Without hesitation, they ran. Security tried to stop them. They failed. The catgirls reached the bay just as the human's grip slipped. One leaped. Another followed. Then all four were there, claws digging into metal, bodies anchoring his weight. The force pulled at them brutally. "Let go!" The human shouted. They refused. Together they held. The council watched in horror as the pressure stabilized not because of machines, but because 5 living beings refused to release each other. The attacking ships faltered. Their pilots hesitated. "What is happening?" the alien commander demanded. The human looked up into the camera, breath ragged. "You wanted feral monsters," he said. "You made family instead." The counselor slammed her hand down. "Fire on the attackers. Now." Station weapons roared to life. Caught off balance and exposed, 2 of the syndicate ships were crippled instantly. The others retreated, warping away in chaos. The bay doors sealed. Silence fell. The human collapsed to the floor. The catgirls surrounded him instantly, panicked, touching him everywhere to make sure he was whole. He laughed weakly. "Guess. I lied." One hit his chest lightly. "Stupid." He smiled. The counselor approached slowly. "You saved the station," she said. He looked up. "No." He gestured to the catgirls. "We did." Around them, the station crew watched in stunned silence. Not weapons, not feral beasts, not prisoners. A human, and those who chose him. And far beyond the station, the galaxy took notice. The silence after the attack felt heavier than the explosions. Emergency crews moved through the station, repairing damage, sealing breaches, helping the wounded. But wherever they went, eyes followed the same sight, the human walking freely. 4 catgirls at his side, no restraints, no fear. News spread faster than any official report. Security footage leaked within hours, not the battle footage, not the weapons fire, the moment they held him together. Across the galaxy, screens replayed it again and again, a human refusing to let go. Feral units choosing to stay. On the station, the council reconvened under pressure like never before. "We are receiving demands," an intelligence officer said. "Explanations, condemnations, offers," From whom? The counselor asked. Everyone. A hologram flared to life, showing multiple alien leaders speaking over one another. Humans cannot be trusted. This is psychological warfare. You have created a dangerous precedent. The counselor raised her hand. Silence. She turned to the human, who stood calmly beside her. The catgirl stayed close, alert but quiet. They want to know what you are, she said. He frowned. Human. That answer will not satisfy them, he thought for a moment. Then tell them I'm a soldier who got tired of watching people break. The catgirls glanced up at him. One nodded slowly, as if she understood more than his words. The counselor faced the holograms again. The human will speak. The human stepped forward. You call them feral, he said. Because it's easier than admitting you failed them. Angry voices erupted. They are unstable. So was I, he replied. Until someone sat with me instead of chaining me. Silence spread. You built cages and called it safety, he continued. You used pain and called it control. But the moment they were given a choice, they chose. One alien leader scoffed. They chose you because you are weak, the human smiled faintly. Then why are you afraid? The transmission cut abruptly. In the days that followed, everything changed. The catgirls were officially reclassified. Not as feral units, not as weapons, as sentient survivors. It was not mercy. It was pressure. Stations began reporting similar cases. Not of humans controlling monsters, but of humans refusing to abandon them. Former prisoners calmed. Broken units stabilized. Not because of commands. Because someone stayed. The human was moved into open quarters. No guards, no chains. Only observation, distant and respectful. The catgirls explored slowly. Curious now, careful. One learned to laugh. A sharp, surprised sound that startled even her. Another learned to speak more words. Safe. Stay. Together. At night, they slept near him, not on him anymore, but close enough to touch. He still woke from nightmares. When he did, they were there. The counselor watched from afar, conflicted. You have become a symbol, she told him one evening. I didn't ask for that, he replied. Symbols never do. Across the galaxy, factions reacted in different ways. Some outlawed humans entirely. Some demanded access to them. Some quietly requested guidance. Human diplomats arrived weeks later, cautious but curious. They watched the footage once, then they understood. One diplomat spoke quietly. He didn't conquer them. No, the counselor agreed. He reminded them. The catgirls were given a choice at last. Leave the station, return to protected worlds. Or stay. They chose him, not because he owned them. Because he never did. The human was offered freedom soon after. Transport home, honors, recognition. He refused. They still need time, he said simply. The counselor studied him. And you? He shrugged. I'm where I'm supposed to be. Far away, in darker corners of space, not everyone agreed. Reports surfaced of factions attempting to recreate the bond. Not with patience, with force. The council received a final warning from intelligence. They are trying to copy what you did, the officer said. And they are failing. The human's expression hardened for the first time in days. They will hurt people, he said. Yes, the counselor replied. Unless something stops them. He looked down at the catgirls. They looked back at him, ready. The galaxy had learned something dangerous. Humans were not the strongest species. They were the ones who stayed. And now, the galaxy wanted to know how. The warning arrived as a quiet message. Not an attack alert, not a threat, a request. The counselor read it twice before speaking. They want a demonstration. The human looked up from where he sat, one of the catgirls leaning against his side. Of what? That what you did can be replicated, she said carefully. Under supervision. He shook his head immediately. No, they are already trying, she replied. Without supervision. That made the room colder. Across the galaxy, reports confirmed it. Black sites, hidden labs, prisoners placed with broken beings, humans forced into rooms and told to survive. Some died, some broke, some screamed until nothing came out. They think empathy is a tool, the human said quietly. Something you can order. The catgirls listened closely. They did not understand every word, but they understood the weight. One spoke, her voice steadier now. They hurt, like before. Yes, he said. And they will keep hurting people unless someone stops them. The counselor hesitated. You cannot fight all of them. I don't need to, he replied. She frowned. Then what do you plan to do? He stood up slowly. The catgirls rose with him, not guarding him now, but standing beside him. We show them the truth, he said. Not a performance. Not a weapon. A choice. The counselor exhaled. They won't like that. They don't have to. The broadcast went live across multiple systems. No edits, no delay. The human stood in a simple room, no restraints. No guards. The catgirls were there with him, calm and alert. He spoke plainly. You want to know why this worked, he said. It didn't start when they entered the room. Images appeared behind him. Medical logs, isolation cells, broken files. It started when I didn't treat them like a problem to solve. A hostile voice cut in. You're claiming superiority. No, he replied. I'm claiming responsibility. The catgirl beside him stepped forward. Her hands shook slightly, but she stood tall. They called us feral, she said slowly. They hit. They shocked. They waited for us to fail. Silence spread across the channels. She touched her chest. He stayed. Another catgirl spoke, voice rough but clear. Did not fear. A third added, quieter. Did not leave. The human said nothing. He didn't need to. A representative from a dark faction laughed coldly. Emotional weakness. You bonded because you are fragile. The human looked directly at the screen. Then why are you hiding? The laughter stopped. Moments later, the station shook not from an explosion, but from sudden arrivals. Unregistered ships. Dozens. The counselor's voice came through urgently. They're forcing extraction. The human closed his eyes briefly. Of course they are. The catgirls reacted instantly, but not with panic, with focus. One asked, fight? No, he said. Stand. Security teams rushed in. We need to evacuate you. He shook his head. Not running. The doors burst open. Armed figures poured into the corridor, weapons raised. Not soldiers, contractors, hunters. The lead one sneered. You're coming with us. The catgirls stepped forward as one. Back, one said firmly. The hunter laughed. Cute, the human spoke calmly. Last warning, they fired, not at him, at the catgirls. The shots never landed. Station shields flared, redirected at the last second by emergency override. The counselor's voice thundered through the hall. You are violating sovereign space. The hunters hesitated. That was enough. The catgirls moved not wild, not feral, but coordinated. Fast, precise. They disarmed, tripped, pinned. No killing, no rage, control. The human watched closely. Easy, he reminded. They stopped immediately. The hunters lay stunned, restrained by station security moments later. Across the galaxy, viewers stared, not at violence, at restraint. One of the catgirls looked down at a hunter, then back at the human. We choose, she said. He nodded. I know. The counselor joined them, breath tight. You've made your point. No, he said gently. They did. The broadcast continued. Factions withdrew, some quietly, some angrily. But none advanced, because now the truth was visible. You could not force what happened here. You could not copy it with cages. You could not steal it with weapons. It only worked when everyone involved was allowed to choose. Later, in the quiet after, the human sat with the catgirls again. One asked softly, They come again? Yes, he said honestly. Another asked, We ready? He looked at them standing straighter now, eyes clear. Yes, he said. But not alone. Outside the station, messages arrived, from survivors, from former prisoners, from humans, from others, not asking for control, asking how to stay. The galaxy had tried to turn compassion into a weapon. It failed, because compassion did not obey commands. It answered choice. And now the ones once called feral had made theirs. The station felt quieter after the broadcast, not safe. Just aware. Ships kept their distance now. Not because they were afraid of weapons, but because no one knew what would happen if they crossed the line again. Inside the adaptive quarters, the humans sat on the floor with the cat girls. No alarms, no meetings, just breathing. One of them spoke first. "They heard us," she said simply. He nodded. "I know." Another added, her words slow but clear now. "Not first hurt. Before." He looked up. "Before the station?" She nodded. "Home." They shared it then, not all at once. Not with anger, with careful words and long pauses. They spoke of different worlds, different lives. One had been a courier, one a guard, one a student, one a mother, captured, sold, studied, broken in small ways, again and again. "They said we were dangerous," one said. "So they treated us like danger." The human felt something tighten in his chest. "That wasn't your fault." They looked at him, unsure. "Fault means choice," he continued. "You didn't get one." Another cat girl asked quietly, "You?" He hesitated. Then he spoke. He told them about the war. About orders that didn't make sense. About leaving people behind because there was no time. About surviving when others didn't. "I kept asking why," he said. No one answered. They listened without interrupting. When he finished, one of them rested her head against his shoulder. "Same," she said. The next days passed slowly. Visitors came. Not soldiers. Not hunters. Observers. Doctors. Diplomats. Survivors. People who wanted to understand. The cat girls chose who entered. If someone raised their voice, they were asked to leave. If someone listened, they stayed. The council watched power shift without a single law being changed. Reports came in from across the galaxy, facilities shutting down. Prisoners released, not out of kindness, out of fear. Because the footage existed now. Because the truth could not be unlearned. But fear was not enough. The counselor knew it. "They'll regroup," she told the human. "They always do," he nodded. "Yes, and when they do," she continued, "they won't attack the station." "Where then?" She met his eyes. "Anywhere you're not." That night the human couldn't sleep. He sat alone in the observation corridor, watching stars drift by. One of the cat girls joined him quietly. "You leave," she said. He did not pretend otherwise. "Maybe." Her ears flattened. "Because danger. Because if they chase me," he said, "they won't chase everyone else." She was silent for a long time. "Then, we go." He shook his head. "That's not safe." She looked at him directly. "We choose." The words hit harder than any weapon. Later, all four sat with him. He told them the truth. That factions were planning to isolate the problem by removing him. That if he disappeared, the attention would fade. "They forget," one said. "Yes," he replied. "Eventually, and us, you'll be protected," he said. Recognized, safe. They were quiet. Then one asked the question he had been avoiding. "Without you?" He didn't answer. The next morning, the council received a message, not a demand, a proposal. One that required a symbol to step forward and draw the line permanently. The counselor found him in the quarters, packing nothing. "They want you to lead a delegation," she said. "To confront the factions openly," he nodded. "I expected that. They won't guarantee your safety. They never do." She hesitated. "You don't have to accept." He looked at the cat girls. They were watching him closely, not afraid. Not confused, ready. "I do," he said. The counselor swallowed. "Then history will remember this moment." He shook his head. "History remembers outcomes." When the announcement spread, reactions were immediate. Outrage, support, fear. Across the galaxy, beings watched as one human prepared to walk into the open, not as a weapon, not as a ruler, as proof. The night before departure, the Catgirl stayed close. Not clinging, present. One spoke softly. "If you fall," he smiled faintly. "Then others stand," she nodded. "We stand too." He closed his eyes, feeling the weight of it all. Tomorrow he would walk into the center of the storm. Not to fight, not to rule, but to make the galaxy decide once and for all whether choice mattered more than control. And whatever happened next, no one would ever call them feral again. The chamber was larger than any room the human had ever stood in. It was not built for comfort. It was built for power. Representatives from dozens of worlds filled the space. Some appeared as towering figures of armor and scales. Others were soft, glowing shapes. Some did not even have bodies at all, only projected forms. At the center stood one human. No weapons, no armor, no guards. Behind him, 4 Catgirls waited, not hidden, not restrained, seen. The counselor's voice echoed softly. "This assembly is now in session." The murmurs did not stop. They grew. Accusations flew across the chamber. "You destabilized containment doctrine. You exposed classified failures. You inspired rebellion." The human listened without reacting. When the noise finally peaked, he raised one hand, slowly. The chamber quieted, not because of authority, but because of curiosity. "I didn't come to accuse anyone," he said. His voice carried, steady and calm. "I came to end something." A representative sneered. "And what?" "An excuse," he replied. "The excuse that cruelty is necessary." Images appeared in the air. Cells, chains, shock fields, broken beings curled in corners. Not just Catgirls. Many species. "You called them unstable," the human continued. "So you treated them like threats. And when they became threats, you said you were right." One of the Catgirls stepped forward. Her voice was stronger now, clearer. "They hurt us," she said. "Then said we were broken," another added. "They never asked why." A third spoke, eyes steady. "He did." A wave of discomfort passed through the chamber. A tall, armored figure rose. "You expect us to dismantle systems that keep order?" The human met its gaze. "No, I expect you to stop calling fear order," the figure scoffed. "And what do you offer instead?" The human did not answer. He stepped aside. The Catgirls moved forward, not as feral units, not as symbols, as witnesses. They spoke of their pasts again, but this time without shaking, without rage. They spoke of lives before cages, of moments stolen, of pain normalized. They did not ask for pity. They asked one question. Why was control easier than care? No one answered. Because there was no answer that survived the truth. A message interrupted the chamber. Urgent, red, multiple fleets mobilizing. The darker factions had chosen force. "They are moving," an officer announced. "Toward civilian systems." Panic rippled through the assembly. The human closed his eyes briefly. Then he spoke. "This is where it ends." The counselor turned to him sharply. "What are you doing?" He took a step forward. "What they want." The chamber went still. "They believe this started with me," he continued. "So let them focus on me." "No," one of the Catgirls said instantly. "Trap." He turned to her and smiled softly. "I know. You go." "Die," another said, fear breaking through. He crouched in front of them. "Listen to me," he said gently. "What we did already worked." "How?" One asked. "Because you don't need me anymore," he replied. They froze. "You chose yourselves," he said. "You learned to stand, to speak, to stop when you wanted to strike." One shook her head. "You stay." He touched her hand. "I'll always stay here." He tapped his chest. Then he stood and faced the assembly. "I volunteer," he said. "As proof." "Proof of what?" someone demanded. "That you can end this without war," he replied. Or you can prove everything I said right. The chamber erupted. You can't allow this. This is manipulation. The counselor's voice cut through. Enough. She looked at the human, eyes wet. If you do this, you may not return. He nodded. I know. She took a breath. Then the council will not stop you. The catgirls stepped forward as one. We go, one said firmly. He shook his head. No, they bristled. He held their gaze. Your future doesn't end with me. Silence stretched. Then one spoke quietly. We choose. To let you choose. His breath caught. The transport was small, unarmed, open broadcast. The galaxy watched as the human stepped inside alone. As it departed, fleets halted. Confusion spread. Negotiation channels opened, not because of threat, because no one knew how to respond to someone who offered himself instead of power. Hours passed, then days. The catgirls waited. Not in fear, in trust. Finally the signal returned. The humans stood again before the galaxy. Alive, tired, unbroken. They stood down, he said simply. Not because of me, he gestured outward, but because they saw you. The chamber erupted not in anger, but in something new, relief. Reforms followed quickly. Facilities dismantled. Practices banned. Oversight enforced. Not perfect, but changed. The human declined every title offered. He returned to the station quietly. When the doors opened, the catgirls were there. They did not jump. They did not cling. They stood tall. You back, one said, smiling. He smiled too. Told you. That night, they sat together beneath the stars, not as prisoners, not as experiments, as people who had chosen each other. Across the galaxy, stories spread. Not about a human who controlled monsters, but about a human who refused to look away. And those once called feral? They became teachers, guards, leaders, proof, because the galaxy learned something it could never forget. Humans were not special because they were stronger. They were special because when everyone else built cages, they stayed.